Hi, I'm Kaden here with my brother,
Cal,
and you're watching Eating W's.
eat the W.
That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W.
On today's episode of Eating W's, we have our NFL Week 11 recap for the 2024 NFL season. It has been a while since we've done a recap episode. I think this is our first in 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. But Kellen and I were just sitting here trying to jog our memory, and I don't think we really missed any huge news, ironically.
No.
Talking like stars out for the season, big time trades, blockbuster trades. I think we're pretty well caught up. But something that did just happen today that I wanted to note was the New York Jets fired their general manager, Joe Douglas, after allowing a comeback win last week, or comeback loss, I should say, allowing the Colts to win last week. So they really picked Rodgers. I mean, Rodgers comes in and all of a sudden Saleh and Douglas are out, and they're really resetting everything with a 40-year-old quarterback. So should be interesting to see how the rest of the season, even into next year, goes in New York. Probably going to be a lot of changing here soon for the Jets. But could it be for the better? Will it be for the worse? That's for us to find out.
They actually have a better winning percentage with Zach Wilson than Aaron Rodgers. So,
Oof. That's got to hurt.
Yeah.
That's going to need some meditation.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. He's going to have to go on at least a 2-weekend resort trip. Or, whatever you want to call it.
Darkness retreat.
Darkness retreat. Yeah, that's what he calls them. There you go. Crazy ass guy. But before we look into the future, got to look into the past with our recap, starting with the Packers game, which had the Green Bay Packers heading to Chicago to take on NFC North rival, the Chicago Bears, and winning on the road by a score of 20-19.
Yeah, the Packers won it on a blocked field goal at the end of the game. And I couldn't believe it. It was only a 46-yard field goal. I knew it was a 40-something. But it being a 46-yard field goal, that's pretty makeable. But I noticed, and so did Rich Bisaccia, he came out and said this also, but I noticed on the first kick, it had a very low trajectory. And even though it was a 50-yarder, so it needed some more distance and height, it still came out at a very low trajectory. And I noticed that, and apparently so did the rest of the Packers special teams, because they bum rushed that middle. And Carl Brooks, our defensive lineman, was able to get one mitt back up through the line and just get enough of a fingertip on it to not give it any distance.
Literally fingertips.
Yeah. But otherwise, it was an okay game by Jordan Love. He had another awful interception, but he also had another deep pass to Christian Watson, which I don't know if you saw, but it was in double coverage. Again, one of those just
shocker.
Fling it up there, and Christian Watson was able to come down with it.
His 80% balls. Yeah.
Yep. So he had a pretty good game and a really nice connection going with Christian Watson, and that will be key because really Christian Watson is probably our most physically gifted wide receiver. So if he's able to really get that chemistry going with Aaron or with Freudian slip.
Oh no!
Get that connection going with Jordan Love. We were just talking about A-Rod, so I have him still on my mind. So if he can get that connection and chemistry going with Jordan Love, then that'll really be key late in the season. And another key thing was the sacks on Caleb Williams, who really did put together a nice game. He was able to evade a lot of the pressure, and he did have a few sacks. A couple of them were key late in the game, though. He didn't have as many as last week against when he played against the Patriots, but he did have 3, and they were 3 key sacks. 2 of them were late in the game. They were back-to-back. So they were able to shut down a Chicago drive late and keep the Packers ahead late in the game.
Yeah, I barely got to watch this game. I had a super busy Sunday. I got to barely watch any football, really. Just kind of what I caught on Red Zone is all, and even missed a good chunk of Red Zone. So bad week for me recap-wise. But I did get to see 2 plays from this game. That first touchdown to Jaden Reed, which was an absolute laser. Got to give Jordan Love
on a free play. They got him on a 12-man.
On a free play,
yeah.
And then, of course, the second play being that last field goal, which was blocked. And I mean, I didn't see the first one, so I didn't realize the first one was low too. But it was the first thing I said to Calvin when I talked to him is, why the hell did he kick it so low on a 46
You could even
yarder?
notice it on even the block.
Oh my gosh, you could tell the second it came off his foot, that thing can only be 8-10 feet off the ground. So when you got those big old 6.5 foot guys jumping, I mean, you got no chance to make it over them. No wonder they got the fingers when they bum rushed the middle. But yeah, so didn't get to see a ton of this game, but man, it's good to know the Bears are still the Bears. I even try to root for them sometimes just because I literally just feel bad for them at this point. But they do it to themselves. They find ways regardless. So we'll see how long Matt Eberflus keeps his job. I'm actually kind of surprised he's even still in the seat, to be dead honest. Maybe just waiting till end of year. But yeah, we could be seeing
They already switched offensive coordinators.
Yeah, they did get rid of Luke Getsy, so might be seeing more changes there in Chicago here soon. But moving on to the other NFC North team with the Minnesota Vikings. We have the Minnesota Vikings also on the road, but heading down to Tennessee to take on the Titans and also picking up a road win by a score of 23-13. And the Vikings really just dominated this game. I didn't get to see all of it, but this is, of course, the game I saw the most of. This game, in my opinion, is really 23-6. The Titans had a 98-yard touchdown, which was just on a total, airhead blown coverage, which is a fluke play in the NFL. You only see those every once in a while where it's just a true blown coverage like that. So outside of that, this game was never even really close in my opinion. Score-wise, it was close for a little bit there. I think for a little bit it was like 10-17 or 10-16 or something along those lines. But really the Vikings are pretty obviously in control in my opinion all the way through. The defense continued to dominate. I mean, Andrew Van Ginkel picked up 2 sacks, 2 or 3 tackles for losses. I know Pat Jones had a sack. I know Jonathan Grenard had a sack. There was just guys getting sacks everywhere on that defensive line. And aside from that one blown coverage that I mentioned, I thought that the secondary played pretty well against a decently talented receiving core with guys like Calvin Ridley and Westbrook-Ikhine. Even though Hopkins is gone now, it's still a pretty decently talented receiving core. But really what I was happy to see was the offense looked a lot better. Sam Darnold in particular, but the offense as a whole looked really poor last week. It looked like they were kind of regressing. I don't know what it was exactly, if they're still just adjusting to life after Darisaw, or if they just kind of overlooked their opponent and had a bad week and then didn't do it this week because they had such a bad week last week. But they were not pristine. They weren't where they were earlier in the season, but they were much better. You could tell they were more focused. Sam Darnold was playing smarter. I mean, it's hard to get any worse than 3 red zone interceptions. He could have thrown 2 red zone interceptions and still been playing smarter. But nonetheless, I don't think he had an interception at all, if I'm not mistaken, which you love to see, especially from a guy like Darnold, who's a little interception prone. So from start to finish, I thought that the Vikings looked really decent in this game. And they were facing a bad enough team that decent was more than enough to get a win. But it does make me a little nervous because I think as we go in and face higher upper echelon teams, which we won't be doing next week with Chicago, but it is a divisional matchup, so those can be a little shaky. But I think as we face those higher teams, those more playoff caliber teams, this kind of performance gets you a loss. So hopefully we can kind of learn from what happened this week and continue on in the future.
Yeah, it seemed to be like it was just the Vikings were just consistent enough to not beat themselves.
Yeah.
And they were able to pull away or not let the Tennessee Titans catch up to them and make a comeback. Well, they did with a scoreless fourth quarter minus a field goal for the Titans. So really pretty normal game. There didn't seem like there was anything besides the one 98-yard play, but there wasn't anything huge or fantastic that continuously happened in that game.
There was like a 55-60 yarder to Jordan Addison, which is pretty cool. It was a laser across the middle on a crossing route, but literally exactly 2 plays, 1 by each team. That's about all the excitement of this entire game.
And the rest were field goals.
Yeah.
So just a typical run-of-the-mill NFL game. The better team won just because I think of the depth and talent on the Vikings. The Tennessee Titans, we kind of touched on last week, they just aren't what we thought they were. Nope. to counter Dennis Green, they are not what we thought they were. And in fact, they are really one of the more disappointments of the NFL this year. And if not for the Jets and Cowboys, maybe they'd be the biggest disappointment in the NFL. but they kind of slip under the radar, having a new head coach, a rookie-ish quarterback, or it's got a quarterback going into his second year, really, but his first year fully starting. So they get a bit of a mulligan, I think, this year, but I expect big things to come for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I agree. I think they continue to grow off of what they're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
But now moving on to what we marked as our game of the week. Last week, we had probably what was the game of the week with the Kansas City Chiefs heading to Buffalo to take on the Bills, and the Bills picking up a win by a score of 30-21. And if you want to talk about hero ball with Josh Allen, this is a prime example of hero ball by Josh Allen. No better way to wrap it up. How pristine hero ball this was without looking at that last game sealing touchdown in the fourth quarter. On a 4th and 2, he rolls out, obvious passing situation, obviously play design for a pass, but he takes off and breaks at least 3, if not 4 different tackles from Chiefs defenders and tumbles his way into the end zone. I mean, it was exactly what you would imagine this game was by Josh Allen. The only way they were going to win this game is if Josh Allen won the game, and he did that and more. I mean, he really put the team on his back. The Chiefs did their damnedest. They looked really good. They found the weak points in the Bills' defense, which was pretty much Xavier Worthy. It was just sheerly the speed of him. They got him the ball a ton. But the Bills found some of the strength in the Chiefs' offense and also shut them down, with Travis Kelce only having, I think, like 2 targets and 1 reception. Kareem Hunt only had about 60 rushing yards and no touchdowns. So the things that were working for the Chiefs in prior weeks weren't in this game. And the only thing that hadn't really consistently been working, and Xavier Worthy, was working for them. But when you got to leave that comfort zone, get it going against a team as good as the Bills are, you're going to end up falling short in games. And they fall short here. The Bills pick up a win at home.
Yeah, it was a nice win for the Bills, and another reason why Josh Allen's probably the MVP favorite, and one reason that Patrick Mahomes should not be an MVP favorite, is that he had 2 interceptions in this game, including an interception on what could have been the go-ahead drive. Well, I guess they were down by 9, but what could have been the at least, the final drive.
Keep him in the game.
To keep him in the game, he throws a terrible interception, throwing it across his body, flinging it downfield, which I know I don't have a whole lot of room to talk to Jordan Love, but Patrick Mahomes doing that, you just don't see him doing that. Or when you see him do it, he usually completes it. So it seems to be kind of a down year for Patrick Mahomes this year. He's second in the league with the second most interceptions in the NFL with, I want to say he's got at least 10 or 11.
Is it behind Love?
And he is behind Love. I didn't want to say it, but you asked.
Love missed 3 games.
Love missed 2.5 games. But nonetheless, it has been a bad year for Patrick Mahomes. It's really, this Chiefs team has been led by its defense, and the defense was really quite a letdown, unfortunately, for this game against the Bills, where they were not able to stop Josh Allen, who really was able to get a nice connection going with Amari Cooper, who had a nice one-handed snag for a touchdown. I think it was it the touchdown?
It wasn't a touchdown.
It was to set up a touchdown.
Sweet catch.
Yeah, it was a really nice catch. It was to put him in a nice position. So if he can really get that connection going with Amari Cooper, look out, because the Bills can be very dangerous when they not only get their running game going with James Cook, but get a passing game going, and especially with a deep connection like Amari Cooper.
Yeah, Khalil Shakir was tearing him up too. He had a really good game himself. So moving on to our next game, we have another AFC matchup, this time within the AFC North. We have the Baltimore Ravens heading to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers in a battle for the top of the NFC North, and the Steelers come out on top by a score of 18-16.
Yeah, and the Steelers win this one by, I believe, for the second time this year, kicking only field goals, where Boswell was 6 for 6 on field goals. And one thing that was key here is that the Steelers' black magic caused the Baltimore Ravens kicker, Justin Tucker, to miss not only 2 field goals, but also an extra point late in the game, which really, when it's a 2-point loss, makes all the difference. So because of that, I think that Justin Tucker, you just talk about Mahomes, how great he was, and and is having a down year, Justin Tucker is mirroring that and having a very bad season for a kicker. And if not for all his past success, he may be one that's on the hot seat. But I think he gets a pass this year because we'll see if he can figure it out next year or figure it out at least down the stretch here where he comes in clutch in the playoffs and late in the season. So when he starts losing that clutch gene, we'll really start to worry. But really, it was a nice game for the Steelers and Russell Wilson, where he continued to prove why he should be the number one quarterback in Pittsburgh. He got the passing game going with over 200 passing yards. They did use Fields for a couple of running plays, but no passing plays. Only quarterback runs for Fields. So,
and at the end, they gave him a QB power to get the first down to seal the game, and he slid early.
That's right. He slid too early because they stop it where you start the slide for a quarterback now. They don't let you finish out the slide.
Which I shouldn't say that. He didn't slide early. He had to slide early. He made the smart play of not taking the hit and risking the fumble. Right. It was just funny because he slid past the first down, got up and did his little first down thing, and the ref was just standing there like, "Nope, you're right here."
He was behind the line.
So yeah, it wasn't like a dumb play by him. I shouldn't have worded it.
It was a safe play.
It was still funny,
but still, nonetheless. Yeah. Only running plays for Fields, no passing the ball. So as long as the Steelers are running out Russell Wilson, I believe they're going to end up being one of the top teams in the AFC this year.
Yeah, I mean, they've proved it to this point. You hear a lot about winning 2 phases of the game or even winning 3 phases of the game, 2 phases being offense and defense, your 3 phases being offense, defense, and special teams. I've never seen a team win a game by really only winning 1 phase of the game, that being special teams. Because, I mean, if you look at the offensive performance by the Steelers, wasn't bad, but it was by no means great. You look at the defensive performance, it was definitely better than the offense, but it still wasn't like off the wall amazing. I mean, they stopped Derrick Henry pretty well, held Lamar Jackson to only about 200 yards. It was a good performance, just not great. But on the special team side of things, as Count already noted, they absolutely dominated. They go 6 for 6 for 18 points, all of their points. They, whatever you want to call it, whether it was on Tucker, on them, the Black Magic, the field goal block team, whatever you want to say, caused Justin Tucker to miss 3 total kicks when he only attempted 5 or 6 total, I'd imagine, throughout the entire game. So hanging right around that like 50, 60% completion percentage or make percentage, I should say, for field goals. So yeah, I mean, I didn't get to watch much of this game, but from what I saw, it was a pretty sloppy game in which the Steelers just dominated in 1 phase of the game. And that was on special teams because, I mean, I'm sure their punting team did just the same because their special teams on the punt side of thing has been one of the best in this, been one of the best in the league this year as well. So I'm sure they continued that trend. So just insane to see them quite literally win off of special teams. But as a former special teamer myself, gotta love it. Gotta love the respect there. So now moving on to the final game we're going to talk about, which was the Sunday night football game, game, and another AFC matchup with the Cincinnati Bengals heading to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers, and the Chargers just eking out a win by a score of 34-27 at home. And I wanted to pick this as my game of the week because score-wise, game-wise, it was definitely the game of the week. But the reason I wanted to talk about it is it was so funny because at the end, neither of these teams wanted to win. They were doing their damnedest to hand it off to the other team. I mean, the Bengals get a possession to drive down the field and come up short. Give it right back to the Chargers. Chargers go back to back to back, 3 incomplete passes in a row. Barely take any time off the clock, automatically have to punt it back away. The Bengals get it, all the momentum in the world, absolutely nothing with it. I think they get 1 first down and then go a 3-and-out right after that. They punt it back to the Chargers, and then the Chargers are like, okay, this is dumb. Let's win this game. Justin Herbert throws back-to-back dimes to rookie wide receiver Ladd McConkey to set them up into field goal range. Couple of runs to get closer to field goal range, and then all of a sudden J.K. Dobbins says a field goal isn't enough, and he has an amazing run, breaks it off the outside of his left tackles, and takes it all the way to the house for a touchdown. So it was just an insane string of events to end this game. But overall, from start to finish, it was a really amazing game. I mean, it was like the opposite of some of the defensive battles we saw this week. It was an offensive shootout, to say the least. Huge touchdowns to guys like T. Higgins and a couple to Jamar Chase. For the Bengals, J.K. Dobbins picked up 2, if not 3 touchdowns of his own, and Herbert threw for 2 of them. It was an awesome game to watch. I didn't get to see a ton of the first half, a portion of it, but not all of it. And then I watched the whole second half, and man, was that an entertaining second half.
Yeah, it definitely was entertaining from the first half and the second half, because the Chargers were able to put up 27 points in the first half. So, or 24 points.
Oh yeah, I didn't even mention the crazy comeback.
Yeah, there was a crazy. They were down. Tennessee. I don't know where the hell that came from. The Cincinnati Bengals were down 21 points at one point in this game, and were able to come back and tie it up with Joe Burrow leading the way, coming and having another fantastic game where he went over 300 yards and had 3 touchdown passes again. So. Another fantastic performance by Joe Burrow, who just continues to really have an MVP caliber season, but they keep losing games.
Yeah.
So it's not showing up.
Wins is a quarterback stat. It's sad, but it is.
It is. It makes a difference. Maybe not specifically the quarterback win itself, but just the wins in general. You got to be on a winning team to win the MVP. So because of that, we'll see where that goes. But really, it was a nice game by both teams. Justin Herbert went nearly over 300 yards. He wasn't quite to 300, but he had nearly 60 yards rushing, which is a big stat to come out, because you don't think of him as much of a scrambling quarterback. But if he could really show that athleticism and add that dynamic ability to his game, then he could really be a dark horse MVP candidate late in this season, because the Chargers are 7-3 and just a couple of games behind the Chiefs for the best record in the AFC. So look out, because if the Kansas City Chiefs drop a couple more games, the Chargers could end up taking this AFC West, and at least are in a position to take a wild card.
Yeah, certainly. Something I wanted to note about this game is it's funny, because if you say this about so many quarterbacks in the league or ever, it's a bad thing. But for Justin Herbert, it's a good thing. Justin Herbert is playing like he was in his rookie season again. And I say that because it sounds weird, but his sophomore season and pretty much every season past that, Justin Herbert has had at least a minor injury. That never took him out of the game, but it always showed in his play. It just showed that he wasn't playing at 100%. It showed that he wasn't fully physically able to be on the field ever since his rookie season. But when he was healthy his rookie season, he went crazy. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year. He broke the rookie passing touchdown record. I think he had like 30 or 35 or something along those lines. And he's playing like he was in that rookie season again. You can tell he's healthy again. You can tell he's confident again. They're young weapons, but he's got some weapons around him, with guys like Ladd McConkey really stepping up, and Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnston both healthy again. So it's been really fun to watch Herbert play these past few weeks, because it looks like Justin Herbert is supposed to look, and he's been showing it with a couple of, by stringing together a couple of wins here. So hopefully it'll keep rolling for the Chargers. They're one of my favorite AFC teams. So love to see that success. So that was our NFL Week 11 recap episode. Thank you all so much for watching, and hopefully you enjoy the recaps being back. But make sure you also stay tuned in until next week, when we have our Week 12 prediction episode. But until then, don't forget
to eat the W.